All right. Hello, Gen Xers. Welcome to another exciting episode of GenXTalkin on Prepping. With me today being your host, I'm Ed Wasson, aka Wilksy. And alongside me today is my good friend, Matt Marshall. Say hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt.
All right. Be quiet now. Gen Xers, I'm really excited and happy to be discussing with you today. Matt, tell them what we're going to go over today.
Hey, we're going to hit a lot of cool stuff, primarily around the Army Survival Guide.
Oh.
And we'll also be hitting on the Army's version of Survival Acronym, using the word survival to convey messages that you can rely on a regular basis to remind you things that you can do to survive.
Outstanding. I'm excited. This is one of my favorite topics when I was in the military. It's one of my favorite books. If you're able to actually view the podcast and you're not just listening to it, what we're going to have up on the screen share for you is FM 21-76, the U.S. Army Survival Manual. And quick history on it. It comes from basically, here's your Google page or your Wikipedia page on survival, evasion, resistance, escape. Basically, we called it SEER school. And a lot of military personnel don't end up going to this school because they don't really need to, but a lot of personnel go through different levels or stages of this school. The U.S. Army has a school called SEER Level C. C as in Charlie, or AKA, as we like to call it, Camp Slappy. That is the camp where they depict in the movie where Demi Moore plays the first female Navy SEAL, and they get thrown in a mud pit and beat up and stuff like that. At any rate, part of the history, background, and purpose of the U.S. Army Survival Manual was situations like that. It goes all the way back to the 1700s, with even back before we were a nation in the French and Indian Wars. Our militiamen were learning some of these skills. They're very basic. A lot of it goes down to basic field craft and being a fair woodsman and such. Hunting, trapping, fishing, camping, it's all in here. Now, my background in this is one of the books that we used to train on probably about 30% of the time in most of the military units I was in. You'd find some kind of training along these lines. And if it wasn't the U.S. Army Survival Manual, it would be the Marine Corps Guide or the Guidebook for Marines. I love this book. I'm excited, Matt.
Excellent. I'm excited too.
A lot of this, guys, it goes to basic camping and field craft, first aid, expedient first aid, stuff like this. But what you can see in the U.S. Army's survival manual here in this table of contents is you can go right through the introduction, survival actions, patterns for survival, psychology of survival, a look at stress, basic things like that, natural reactions, preparing yourself. And that's what this show that me and Matt do, that's what it's all about, is preparing yourself mentally, psychologically. And that's one of the key things I think a lot of people might forget. They're doing probably a lot of physical fitness type activities and prepping as far as gathering and collecting supplies and stuff like that. But are we really preparing ourselves mentally and emotionally and psychologically for some of the hardships that we're going to have to deal with if it's a preparedness or survival type situation? What do you think, Matt? Are we preparing ourselves mentally enough?
Well, mentally, possibly. Psychologically, that's a tough one. It really is.
It is.
I've talked about it in a couple of past episodes, and actually in a couple of other presentations I've given to other groups. If you see a person injured per se, right? You've got like seconds to respond. If you see an arterial bleed and it's jetting out jetting out blood all over the place. If you don't respond in seconds, that person's gone. And just seeing that much blood can have such an impact on a person's psychological response. And then there's the other side of it, which is security. There's an active shooter, an active assailant coming into a grocery store or something like that, and how quickly you can respond and come to reality, come to grips with yourself that there is something happening. I was listening to an episode, it's actually a survival podcast on, it's called The Big One, and it's on earthquakes. And that was one of the number one things that happens, is that stops people from preparing. And that's they don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
They don't want to think that at any point in time, and this is primarily in California and other places where there's major fault lines, but if there's some major event that can happen that can affect so many people's lives, and most people, they just think, you know what, I don't have time to think about it. And if I do think about it, I just simply realize I am woefully unprepared for anything like that to happen. And then, gosh, how would I respond?
Thinking about it. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's uncomfortable to think about unpleasant possibilities.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
The people who put it on, who created it, and it's only about 9 episodes long, so it was pretty quick listening. One of the things that they said, it was a husband and wife. I think they had 1 or 2 children, something like that, and they ran through this. They went through and tried to do some preparedness type of stuff, and you can tell they were on more of a, I don't really believe this is happening. I don't really believe in the concept of preparedness, but they went and they started interviewing these people, and they came to one person that said they were hoping what they were going to get out of the discussion is, we don't need guns. We don't need weapons or anything like that, because people will respond.
Yeah.
It's been proven people respond in positive ways. It was proven during the World Trade Towers coming down, that people helped each other, and that's why so many people lived through the event. And I'm going, yeah, but you know what? That was one impactful event that happened at a point in time, but there's a period of time after events like earthquakes and tornadoes, hurricanes, when there's a lack of food, when there's a lack of water. And the more you're prepared, the less urgent things become, the less desperate things become. So yeah, absolutely. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, something about touching on very quick and briefly on firearms. A firearm is a tool. A firearm can be a tool for defense, especially something like a hunting rifle. It can be a tool for preparedness or survival, like hunting, if that's what it's going to come down to. And that's it. It's just a tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bottom line up front for us. But going back to specifically to the survival manual, you can see that you can get the hard copy of this, and you can go online, find it. You can find it in your surplus stores, other places. You can probably get this thing for as little as $12 to $7 or so. And it's 200 or 300 great pages of reading. And if you're into survival or prepping or camping or fieldcraft at all, there's a lot of survival books out there. There's a lot of fieldcraft, bushcraft, those kind of genre of books and manuals and guides out there. This is probably one of the best. And it's if you're into it at all, it's a joy to read, because there's great lessons in digestible pieces throughout the whole book. And it goes just ABC 1 2 3 right on down the line. You see the table of contents here. And just so you guys know, also, we flip over here, and Matt showed me this earlier. You can actually go to your Google Play, and there's actually the Army Survival Handbook Offline Manual Guide app. It's not going to have all the pages. It's not going to have all the illustrations probably, but there's a preview of some of that. So you can get the app, you can get the hardcover, write your own notes in there. You can download the PDF that we're going to be going over here.
Straight from the app store. I downloaded mine. It did cost $1 for me to download it, but I think it was more than worth it. And it's got a lot of really cool information. The other thing that was kind of cool about the one that I got is it actually has flashcards too.
Yeah.
Little fun things that you can do. That had this table topics thing where you can throw a question out on the table and it gives you the basic answer, but you can throw it out as a question to ask around a table type of thing. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah, and there's another game out there. A few of the former SEALs or SAS have done a few flashcard type things for survival and preparedness. Great stuff. All the stuff is out there. There's plenty of knowledge and information out there, and I'm really excited to go over this part of it right here. This one right here, Chapter 4, Basic Survival Medicine. This was always one of my favorites because in the Marines and the Army, we used to go over basic combat life-saving skills all the time. We would do nasal pharyngeals. I had to actually do a stick of an IV on a couple of people in real world environments because they were dehydrated. We were in like 130-degree heat. You never can tell when you're going to have to get that IV bag or something like that. Splinting fractures, types of wounds, types of bleeding, treatment for shock, all that kind of stuff. You have a whole chapter in here on basic survival medicine. I love this chapter too, survival planning and survival kits. There you go, right there.
Kits.
That's what it comes. That's what a lot of stuff.
Kits.
The Rangers, whenever we'd get a Ranger in the group, they would love to show us different little things that they put in their little personal survival kit.
Yeah,
it was great stuff. But what I want to go over first, I guess, first and foremost and most tantamount in chapter 1 is the introduction. And this goes to the whole book. The beauty of this book, as you see in the introduction, is that this manual is based entirely on the keyword survival. The letters in this word can help guide you in your actions in any survival situation. Whenever faced with a survival situation, remember the word survival. So in its introduction, it's going over the acronym survival, and you go right through those things. So, you take these survival actions, and S is size up your situation, your surroundings, your personal physical condition. What are you currently capable of doing? Are you sick? Are you injured? Size up your equipment. Do you have your go bag, your survival kit?
Yeah.
Is it full? Have you depleted some of the objects in there? So use of all of your senses. Use all of your senses, and undue haste makes waste. And you keep going down the line. R is for remember where you are. This is huge. This is one of the key elements to it, is where are you location wise? Do you know which way is north, south, east, or west? Do you live out in the outskirts? You're somewhere in the wilderness near Baltimore and you're lost, but you know that at least hey, I'm about 25 minutes southwest of Baltimore. Know where you are. Remember where you are. Are you in the desert in the middle of nowhere? You got some key terrain features to look for and stuff like that. V is for vanquish fear and panic. This goes to the psychology of any preparedness or survival situation, and it can be hard. One of our leadership acronym letters is C for courage. Courage is a very hard thing to define. It's very intangible. It's a little bit vague until something huge hits you. And are you shrinking or backing away from it, or running away, or in fear, and you're letting fear overcome you? Or are you at least somehow psychologically and mentally prepared a little bit? And okay, I know where I am. I'm a little bit prepared. I have a little bit of a kit with me. I can do this. So vanquish that fear and panic. This is something you probably want to key on a little bit more, right, Matt?
It's interesting you say that, because me not having come from an army or military type of background, yet I see this and I feel this every day, the need to vanquish fear and panic. I think I've told you this in a story before, but we put a product review up on our YouTube and actually in a podcast, a short podcast earlier in the year, and that was on the Fast Strike tool.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
a great podcast episode.
Essentially it's what people refer to as a tactical whip, and the reason I find that so valuable is it's not a deadly weapon, yet it will cause severe pain, and it'll scare your opponent a lot. So the point in time that I like to think about this is, I was actually going through some concealed carry class, and we were just learning about how to de-escalate a situation, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I had just come out of the class. My wife and I went for a walk, and this neighborhood hoodlum came up and thought he'd start some stuff with me.
Yep.
And he did, and it kind of got in my face, and my initial response is, I'm a grown man. This is a kid who's trying to start some stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, if I had a concealed carry weapon, would I pull it out right now?
Right.
And I know the lesson from the training was, no, you de-escalate the situation first. Walk away if you can. Some way to get away so you don't have to pull out a weapon. Okay. But this Fast Strike tool makes one feel comfortable. It's so quick to whip out the back pocket or pull off of a backpack or whatever it may, and you have two distinct attacks that you can do if needed, right? A whipping attack across the face, and then a hammer fist type of attack that'll cause some pretty severe damage to collarbones and so on, if you feel like you're in that type of threatening situation. But it's those type of situations you think that they most times people are cool.
Yeah.
But then there are other times, and they happen every single day to millions of people. So just be ready, and be ready to vanquish that fear and panic, according to the acronym here.
Yeah, your last point that you mentioned there, Matt, is pretty important. There's two things I want to touch on. That is, number one, if you have some kind of weapon and you feel like you really have to use it, you should try at least to use an extreme amount of caution with downward blows to the head or neck, because that can almost be deadly force if you have anything in your hand anyway, because that on the head, that can cause death or serious bodily harm. So be careful with that. You got to at least try to be prepared and trained at least a little bit in that. But number two, as far as what Matt said about people, you can just be walking down the street, minding nobody's business but your own anymore these days, almost anywhere USA. And somebody, you never know what their condition is. They could be tweaked out on methamphetamine or whatever else. And they just want to fight with you. And although the crime statistic throughout the US over the last 20 years is a very, very slow downward pattern, so it's dropping a little bit, it's still pretty status quo. So there's still more of a fear of crime out there than there is actual crime. The problem is there still is a good ratio of potentiality for any kind of violent encounter. In the U.S. Army, when they teach combatives to most of the troops now, combatives level 1 anyway, They said this is survival of the Walmart parking lot. That's the joke that they're saying is you just go into a Walmart parking lot and there's just so many people there that are just so frustrated with whatever reasons, and they have so much angst and anxiety and road rage. They could be pulling in with a lot of road rage for whatever reasons. And my friend, that's a lieutenant with Albuquerque Police Department, he says that new movie with Russell Crowe about road rage, I forgot the title of it. I did watch it because he said it was good. I didn't really like it that much, but he said he has to deal with a scenario similar to that almost every day. He's a lieutenant on motors patrol, so he's on a motorcycle. He's dealing mostly with motorists, and he says he has to deal with a nearly violent physical confrontation over road rage almost every day. So there's all those potentialities out there, and whatever the situation comes up, whether it's face-to-face, one-on-one, or other kind of personal confrontation, whether it's bad weather or an earthquake, whether there's a huge power outage or whatever else causes you to be in a preparedness and get your, a preparedness action, and you've got to get your go bag or whatever and go. Whatever the situation, think about it a little bit, plan about it a little bit. Matt and I talked about planning and thinking in a previous episode. Vanquish that fear and panic, because it's not going to serve you any good. You're going to, especially if you have tools like this survival manual, and if you don't have it online or in your app, or the electricity goes down or whatever, if you do happen to have the handbook or a handbook, you have all the information here you need to survive most perceivable situations. Is that a fair assessment, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to make one more comment about the about having a book available for you, an actual physical book. Great thing to have really cool things on your iPhone or on your Google phone. Fantastic, but always have a backup. What's the old saying? Two is one is none. I think that's an old saying. Primarily around water. If you water and starting fires, always have the ability to do this two ways, because two ways, one might fail. That leaves you with one. If you only have one and that one fails, you have none.
Yeah. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's part of what we used to teach every time we'd go over this survival manual, things like that. And here's another big one, the I in survival, improvise. And listen to what these guys in the U.S. Army that were writing this. Right here. It says, in the United States, we have items available for all our needs. Many of these items are cheap to replace when damaged. Our easy come, easy go, easy to replace culture makes it unnecessary for us to improvise. This inexperience in improvisation can be an enemy in a survival situation. Learn to improvise. Take a tool designed for a specific purpose and see how many other uses you can make of it. Learn to use natural objects around you for different needs. An example is using a rock for a hammer, things like that. So you're in a survival situation. The I is for improvise. You're going to have to let your imagination take over. You're going to have to improvise. And, the old adage is, give a guy super glue and duct tape and he'll pretty much fix anything. Right, Matt?
Duct tape. Yes, sir.
Duct tape. And that's actually, as far as like building in your kits, a little bit of some type of super glue in a really good container where it doesn't leak and stuff like that. And a lot of good 100-mile-an-hour tape is what we used to call it, but duct tape, that should be in your survival kit.
Absolutely. Paracord is another one that's very, very important and helpful to improvise.
And fast and easy to get, cheap, and it doesn't take much space or weight in your survival kit.
Absolutely.
The second V in survival is value living. And I think this is going to get more and more important in the future, because I think I just get the vibe that different people in different generations, different stages in their life especially in these days with COVID and so much weird news and everything else like that. Um, if when the chips are really down on the table, I can see a lot of people just going and just
Yeah.
giving up.
Yeah.
And that little bit of hesitation or something in any of these situations can be the difference, maybe sometimes in life and death as well. So always stay positive, stay motivated, and value living.
Yeah.
What do
One
you
of
think
the,
about that one, Matt?
oh man, one of the things that we have been trying to instill in our now all three adult children is that it's life is like a roller coaster, and there are
Yep.
always going to be highs and there are always going to be lows. And the coolest part is none of them last.
Right.
None of them last. And so you're in this situation where you might be super down right now. My daughter had a situation where she was, she had a boyfriend for a period of time, broke up with that boyfriend, had a little bit of a rough time, and things seemed to be going downhill. And of course, she just graduated and spent the last year and a half of her high school life at home because of COVID, right? Completely isolated. They tried to do as much as they could with the public schooling
Yep.
and so on, but it was terrible. And the public school did not respond very well to these kids that were seeming to just drift off. She so much so that she just said,
Yeah.
I don't care if I go to graduation or not. What's the point? Why should I even bother going to graduation? And so it was really, really frustrating for her to have to feel that. And as a parent, for us to have to watch her going through that. But she also,
Yeah.
just in the last couple of weeks, she's been starting at a community college. She's been starting to meet new people. She's seen a new friend. Just, things are kind of lightening up for her. And this is a perfect lesson, perfect time to teach that lesson, that the
Yeah.
highs can be there. They won't last. The lows have been there. They won't last either. It's just going to be a constant roller coaster, which kind of makes it fun, but also can make it difficult if you don't like change. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And here's the thing, at the bottom sentence in this value living, they say stubbornness, a refusal to give into the problems and obstacles that you face will give you the mental and physical strength to endure.
yeah.
And that's like in the Marines, I felt like we never really needed it because I felt like we always had a fairly urgent mission when I was in the Marines. I was younger, I was more impressionable. When I got in my later Army units, they had to teach this kind of stuff. There was a little bit, it seemed like a little bit of a diluted mission. What I was on mostly there was counter drug support missions, things like this, not a more infantry overseas combat type of mission in some cases. So it depends on what kind of unit you were in, what kind of experiences you had. But what I heard in the Army that I didn't like the way it sounded then, but it is true now. The Army would always say false motivation is better than no motivation at all. So if, especially Matt, if we're leaders in our community, even if we're the ones that are feeling overwhelmed or down or whatever, we got to pull it up out of somewhere. We got to dig deep down inside, and we've got to at least put forth a really good appearance and attitude. And seriously, even if it's a little bit of a facade, even if you are a little bit worried or something like that, if you're the leader of a group in say your family or in somewhere in your community and something's really going south, the people that are leaders, they need to stand up and at least be as sure and positive and confident as possible, because people like to emulate good leaders. And attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching? Now, if you're going to be a defeatist, and you like, let's say the movie Aliens, where the guy was like, "We're all goners. We're doomed. We're just dead." And Sigourney Weaver's character has to tell him, "Shut up.
Yeah.
We're going to get through this." It was a funny scene. Everybody remembers that scene if you've seen any movies. So it's a good example. If the chips are really falling on the table, if things are really going south, stay motivated, vanquish fear, and value living. And stay positive, and it's that stubbornness and can-do spirit. Like, you're just not going to get me down today. We're going to get through this one way or another. What do you think of that, Matt?
Yeah, man. Value living. It's so and so such an incredible saying and thought to value living. And I like what you said about staying positive. It is very, very difficult to do sometimes, especially, when I hate to keep bringing up COVID, but it's such an easy, an easy place to go, because there's so many other things that can cause frustrations, job loss or job change, or, if a failure in school or whatever it may be. Anything can happen to us to get us down. And one of the things, I'm probably pretty common in this, but one of the things I like to do is just take a nap. And I've done this my entire life. So it's not just a Gen X thing. I'm telling you, it's not just a Gen X thing. I loved one of the things that happened when our oldest son was born. It was a very, very difficult birth, and it lasted about 26 hours. We were both extremely exhausted, and there was a lot of struggle around it. And at one point in time, I just, in the hospital room, I just passed out on a very small couch. And the lady actually came in, the cleaning lady actually came in and started vacuuming, and she was hitting the couch, and I was just completely passed out, just would not wake up, because I was trying to recharge. I'm just like, nope, can't, not hearing anything, not feeling anything. So value living.
And being motivated and positive and value living, vanquish fear, all that goes so far. But if you're in a really high stress situation, you do need sleep sooner or later. If you go through Ranger School, which I didn't go through the full Ranger School, I went through an abbreviated version of it. You will get sleep deprivation. So you'll be up maybe 3 or 4 nights straight. The Ranger School has a whole week long. SEAL Team Hell Week has about a week long, everything else like that. But even World War II Marines and other Army soldiers that were out there battling the enemy on Iwo Jima, when there were lulls in the battle, there'd be sergeants that go through in the ranks, say, you and you guys go to sleep. You guys have been up for like 3 or 4 days. You guys are on watch this time. You're going to be the eyes and ears and the defense, but these guys have to rest. Even in a combat situation, there's been people that have basically taken charge and told people, you go to sleep.
That would sure be valuable to have between husband and wife. Have a situation where somebody can come through and say, okay, you go take a nap. You gotta cover for just a little while, and then you can take a nap after, or something like that. Because
all comes down to communication.
It comes down to communication and compromise.
And compromise. So that, Matt, the A in survival is act like the natives. I don't have a whole lot for that, but because that's a whole topic unto itself, depending on the situation. So, but maybe you're on business travel and you're in Tehran, Iran, or you're in Azerbaijan, or Baku, Azerbaijan, or you're in the Caucasus or the Philippines or Moscow, Russia, or whatever. Well, first of all, certainly,
or in Chicago.
First of all, in most of those situations, maybe even in Chicago, you don't want to be waving around your American flag and saying, America, not bad. Because you ever heard of a heat-seeking missile? You don't want to be that heat source for that heat-seeking missile. All right.
Right.
Survival. Right. Act like the natives. Don't act like the big part of act like the natives for me, especially when you're traveling, is don't act like the typical ignorant American tourist. Americans are almost universally loathed throughout the world, except maybe a little bit in Canada, Britain, and Australia and New Zealand or something like that. But if you're touring or you're on a business trip, they love our money. And a lot of people like us. They just don't like the country, the government, the politics, the news, and they take it out on you as an individual when you go traveling. So you don't want to you don't want to be a, high profile American tourist out there. Act like the natives.
Yeah, I would clarify that with one with one important distinction. I think they actually do like Americans.
Mm.
You know, I think a lot of foreign countries do like and love. You're right. They love the money that's coming
Mm.
in, but they absolutely hate tourists. They
Yeah.
don't like it when dumb, apparently dumb Americans, those who don't even try to speak the language,
Mhm.
those who don't even try to recognize that they're in a completely different culture.
Yeah.
That's what they hate about Americans, about the classic tourist American, the person that really doesn't have a clue where they're at. And that's part of what one of the parts of this survival acronym is: recognize where you are, where the heck you
Yeah.
are, and act like the natives. I
Perfect.
used to pride myself on, I actually used to say it, and I still say it sometimes, and that's my ability to be like a chameleon, to
Mhm.
go in and out of different groups. I could go in I remember in high school, I could hang out with the tweakers, I could hang out with the Native American groups, I could hang out with the jocks because I was in football, basketball, track. I could hang out with the cowboys. It didn't matter. I could move in and out of each one of these groups, and it didn't matter who I was around. Call that what you will. I call it a chameleon, and it's just simply that concept, acting like the natives.
Yeah, guys, that doesn't go to any type of cowardice, by the way. You're
Mhm.
not backing down or anything else like that, but you go into a foreign country or anywhere else like that, and it's just you or just a small team or something like that. And this, I mean, even the baddest of the bad Navy SEALs, Delta Force, whoever else, they've been operating in Peshawar, Afghanistan,
Yeah.
Iraq, Syria, wherever else. They're going to tell you the same thing. You know what? They dress and act like the natives. They dress up in Arab clothes. They actually try to get a tan. They try to let their beards grow.
Mm.
They don't go in there in their Team America gear with patches and everything that says U.S. Special Forces or something. So
Nope.
this isn't something about being Billy Badass or something, guys. Act like the natives. It's if you're traveling or in that kind of situation, it's going to really pay you long dividends in the end. Plus,
Yeah.
cultural awareness and appreciation for different cultures, like Matt said, that goes a long way into developing a really solid, good rapport. And if you're in different countries and different places, you should be appreciative of some of those cultures anyway. You're not
Yeah. Yeah.
just you're one person in a country of millions of people. The last thing you're going to do is spit on their Buddhist statues or
Yeah.
something just because you're a hardline Christian or something like that. You can keep your moralistic compass and values and religious values and everything else like that, and be respectful and be the silent American. That's
Hmm.
that's what I like to be. I like to be the silent American.
I remember. I'll tell you one funny story, and then we can move on if you want to. But
Sure.
I was in. I was traveling in Munich, Germany during Oktoberfest,
Mhm.
which is the capital of Oktoberfest, and huge beer steins and Hofbrauhaus and lots of drunk people. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And myself and my partner it was a female gal that I was doing traveling with, and we were walking down one of the streets to get to Hofbrauhaus, which is one of the most popular places you can go. And that's where the German ladies come out with the six huge beer steins, and they're walking along. Anyways, we somehow, so we're walking down the street. There's lots of people around, and we somehow got behind these groups of big guys, right? And there's traffic going both ways. And these guys, one of them just kind of stands up, says, "Get the F out of my way. I'm an American."
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That was not blending in. That was not being like one of the natives. That was being a complete asshole, is what that was doing. And it was at that point in time, myself and the person I was traveling with, we were thinking, Maybe we ought to sew some Canadian patches on our backpacks.
Yeah. Check, please. I'm
Check.
not with him.
I'm out. I'm out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Actually, Matt, we can keep talking about this because this goes back to know who you are, where you are,
Yeah.
act like the natives. And we're going into L, live by your wits. I was traveling. I've actually traveled to a couple of places where there's actually quite a few places outside of the US. Believe it or not, there's a little bit of shady stuff going on the side out there. And there's areas where that's what it's known for, is a little bit of shadiness.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're, say, in Mexico or Costa Rica or the Philippines or Thailand or parts of Eastern Europe, and you happen to get in that area where it's like Pattaya Beach, Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand, and you end up, for whatever reason, maybe accidentally going into the soy cowboy part of Pattaya, and there's all those strip clubs and lady boys, and you see all those Americans there. Depending on what you're traveling there for, if you're not there for basically sex tourism, you might want to avoid the area because everybody over there is going to look at you and see that you're not a native and assume that you're with, you're one of those guys. And it's going to make you a target. So it goes into knowing where you are, acting like the natives, live by your wits, kind of, situational awareness. There's stuff going on in the world that's a little bit shady. You might run into a drug area. You might run into a place in, next thing you know, you're in a part of Romania where there's the apartments where they're doing all the webcam stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing there?
Mm-hmm.
They might think that you're part of some sort of FBI group that's trying to do a sting or something. You never can tell. So just always err on the side of caution, because your life and health and safety are what's at stake here. And if you're traveling or you're in a survival situation, you are not at home. You are not, that safe. You can't just be willy-nilly and carry yourself with too much bravado. So I would ask you and recommend to err on the side of caution and just avoid those situations. Like, I flew into Bangkok and I toured around the way I wanted to tour. I saw the WITS and things like that. And then I saw some other seedy stuff. And I got on a train to get 2 or 3 hours south to a small, nice touristy area where it's just a beach, nice food, good people. And I didn't have to worry about any of that other crazy stuff going on in other parts of Bangkok. So that's just my 2 cents on that. But
I like the live by that on the live by your wits portion. There's the second half of that, right, which is learn basic skills, and I think that's one thing. It kind of wraps up the whole survival very, very well. I really do, because if you don't, like we always talk about this, and when we have our bug out bags or our kits or our get home safe bags or whatever it may be, if you have this really, really cool kit and you never use it, you never train yourself on how to use the different items that are inside of it, you have no idea what's inside of it, then how would you ever be able to use that as a survival tool or group of tools? So learning basic skills, even if it's just something as simple as, one of the things I started doing just recently is going out, and I'm hoping to actually start recording some videos on a regular basis in slow motion of me using the ferro rod and the different types of fire starters to go out and start a fire in my in our fire pit out there, just to test it out and test my skills and learn these different capabilities. So learning those basic skills is another really, really good way of preparing yourself.
I was about to just jump in on that one, both feet. That's what I live by, is basic skills. Guys, if you guys haven't noticed, Matt and I are not, like I say, Bear Grylls, were this 15 plus year British SAS guy that has his own line of survival knives now.
Right.
So, I mean, we're not novices by any means. I've probably lived at least 5 years of nights, either sleeping on the ground or in a cot or the back of a Humvee or a truck at best. So I've got that much experience, but I've always relied on these basics. This whole book is so easy to read. It's so easy to learn. And this guidebook or any other like it is really going to be a huge tool in your arsenal for information on survival and preparedness. What do you think, Matt?
That's excellent. Yeah, I'm very encouraged. Good stuff.
Yeah, this stuff is, I love it. It's so easy. It's fun. It comes sort of natural to me because I feel like a lot of it is sort of centered around camping. And
yes.
I love camping. My dad used to take us camping all the time. We'd camp by a river or a lake in the mountains, southern Colorado near Durango or Pagosa Springs, those areas like that. So in like 10 to 14,000 foot peak mountains, great mountain stream, like Lake Vallecito, Lemon Lake, places like that. And I would learn, Dad teach me how to get there, how to set up the camp, the tent, fish on the river. And there's actual diagrams for this that you get in the military. And the military teaches you like infantry, huge infantry group type outdoor field training. If you're in a large Army unit, you can be in about a 15 by 15 foot GP tent with a wooden floor. They sometimes use either wood crates or other things for a wooden floor. You might have cots for, or not cots, but bunk beds for actual beds with real mattresses. You might have generators out there for power to turn on a fan if it's really hot, if you're in the desert, or turn on a heater if you're in the like a cold environment. But I loved training with this survival manual type stuff in mind, either for camping or in the military or anything else like that. And I felt like, yeah, we're outdoors, we're camping, we're setting up the tent, we're doing this, we're doing that. Yeah. We're in the desert now. So if you're in the military, you get at least a week or so a year of concentrated, focused training in desert climate. And another week or 1, 2, 3 weeks, you're going to be on deployment in the Philippines or Thailand. You're going to go to Operation Tally Tie or something like that. You're going to be a week to 3 weeks in jungle training. And you get to go to JES school, Jungle Environment Survival Training School. And the Thais might ask you to drink cobra blood or something. It's crazy stuff. You'll learn how to eat the bugs, and you'll learn how to stay dry when it's monsoon season and stuff like that. It's great stuff, guys. It's really fun, exciting to learn. But as you go into the survival guide here, what I want to try to make tantamount to everybody is survival and preparedness and military operations are one thing, but I'm asking everybody, imploring, highly suggesting, if it's just camping you're going after, please remember to keep that campground, that area that you're in. Remember your hygiene, your field sanitation. And we always tried to leave that campsite as clean or cleaner than when we got there.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was a kid, I had a camp that I would go to, and we would go Hummingbird music camp. That's right. I was a drummer. And I remember one of the things about two times a week, if I remember correctly, 1 or 2 times a week, we would all go on this actual camping trip where we'd go out, we'd stay in tents, sleeping bags, things like that. Normally at a music camp, it's more for music and we're in bunk beds and things like that. But we'd actually go out on a camping trip. And that was the number one thing. First off, everybody has to go out and collect some wood and put it in a big old pile so that the cooks have something to use. Yep. But then it's, by the time we leave the next morning, everyone has to come back with a piece of trash. You know, yep. You got to go around. Everyone has to go around. You have to come back with a piece of trash, even or more if you find more. But the whole point is to keep the campsite cleaner than when you left it, than yep. when you arrived. So yeah, absolutely. Good lesson.
Yeah. Hey guys, this, if you got the PDF version open, I mean, if you download one of the apps, it's going to be fun. If you've got the flashcards, that's going to be fun. You can learn different people, learn faster and easier and retain more different ways. So find the one that works for you. There's the online PDF, or you can download it so you can have it in your documents on your computer. There's the app, there's flashcards, there's the actual manual. But what I want to show you about the PDF, if you're online or whatever, is you can Control F, word search, and you can go to camp and you're going to see keep campsite clean.
Yeah.
And learn things about, how do you dig your cat holes to cover waste? Where do you go in accordance with where your campsite is located for your cat holes?
Now, I thought you were going to leave your cat behind in a survival
I'm going to leave the
situation.
cat behind, but we're going to have a cat hole so we can bury her there and leave her behind. And you could go right down the line with these guys. Keep your don't soil the ground in the campsite area with urine and feces. These are things that you would think are obvious, but I've actually seen soldiers urinate no more than like 10 feet from their shelter half.
Awesome.
Dude, we've got a site set up over there for that. Take your e-tool and do your, sit on your e-tool if you have to or whatever, but there's a site for that way over there. So you're not doing it too close to your tent or your shelter half, whatever. I know we're talking probably to a lot of Gen Xers that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s or so. A lot of you guys might be in RVs, pull behind campers, maybe fifth wheels or whatever. So you're really not roughing it too much, but we're giving you all this information just in case you ever get to that spot where you're like, now we're in this camper for a while because we're in like a survival or preparedness situation. And this is just one of those pieces of information or tools just to put in your toolbox. You have all this information here on the survival manual, keeping your campsite clean. That goes towards campers and stuff like that as well. I mean, you're not going to really go, what's going on here with my thing? It's not really going to the next site for camp.
Oh, you frozen your computer. It's broken.
There you go. Here's a helpful hint. Be sure the fire is out before leaving your campsite.
Yeah. Out in California, especially.
Those fire alerts are out there all the time for everybody to see. And as we're about to close in on this survival guide, I wanted to just go over again real quick what it is, where you can find it. It's table of contents. You see right here in the video. If you can't see it very well here, that's going to possibly try to re-record it in maybe higher resolution with a different type of screen capture. But again, we're going over the U.S. Army Survival Manual, introduction, survival actions, patterns for survival, psychology of survival, a look at stress, natural reactions, preparing yourself. We've gone over a lot of this in this episode. Importance of planning, survival kits, tips on how to build a survival kit fast and easy, and what to put in it are in the survival manual. Basic survival medicine, building shelters, water procurement. As you go through this survival manual in the first parts of it, it's going to tell you, here's your priorities actually. You're going to set up the camp. You got to look at the lay of your land. The river is running this way. This is probably where you're upstream over here is where you're going to get your water to drink, or you're going to fish or whatever. Then the next place you're going to collect water for other things. Then down over here, you're going to maybe bathe or whatever else. Whether you're bathing and you're using soap, or you're brushing your teeth and you're using toothpaste, you got to try to think about doing that hygienically and sanitary wise, environmentally safe or friendly as well, because you don't want toothpaste and soap from your bathing all over the river as well. If you catch fish and you're cleaning fish for eating and you've built your fire and everything else like that, you don't want your fish guts all over the place. So there's a lot of things to consider, because I've seen a lot of people camping on a river and they catch some fish, or they're on a lake or wherever, and they're camping. So they want to clean their fish and eat them there later that night or whatever. And they clean their fish and they leave the head and guts like right there on the bank.
Mm.
You go out there the next day and you've got the fish head, fish guts, and their power bait or their worms or whatever bait they were using all still there, and a whole bunch of bugs, flies, ants, everything else that you've got to avoid now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of considerations to this kind of stuff, guys. It's not just camping or preparedness or survival. This manual has it all. If it doesn't have it all, you can ping Matt or myself and have your comments or ask us any questions.
Yep.
What do you have, Matt?
We've got a million different resources, things that we can pull from. As we've talked about in a couple of other of our other shows, our history, you mentioned we're no experts, of course, but the fact that we've put years and years of thought into this, we can do nothing but help. And if there's something that we can't help with, then we can learn. And so this is very exciting to go through. I'm getting the feeling that you like this manual a little bit.
I love this manual. Almost every bullet that I see, I want to talk about eventually, like life-saving steps. People don't know the life-saving steps. You know, they don't know basics. Some people don't know basics of heat stroke and heat exhaustion. Heat exhaustion, somebody's just really hot and dry, maybe hot and sweaty. They need to be cooled down. They need to get rehydrated. Heat stroke, red, hot, and dry, they're ready to die. Very simple limericks like that. If they're red, hot, and dry, and you guys are out lost somewhere near Las Vegas or something like that, or Carlsbad Caverns or something like that, red, hot, and dry, they're ready to die. You need to get them shelter and medical attention and water immediately. And cool down immediately. I'm talking like strip them down and throw ice on them if you have to. I've actually seen this happen. We've thrown ice blankets on people. We had those ready in the military when we'd go on these forced 25-mile ruck marches.
Yeah,
you got to, and that's part of being prepared. And Matt and I are very excited to talk about these things.
Hey Ed, have you ever heard of the mission? It's like a survival rag or a cooling rag. Have you seen these things?
Is that the orange cravat? You're not talking about the orange cravat.
No, they're from Mission is the name of the brand. But we actually, a friend of mine and I went through the Tough Mudder race, and the cooling towel, you'll see it there. There's actually a couple of different versions that you can get. There's one that's more like a buff that you can pull up around your head. And then there's one you see that blue one on the right hand side there. It's just something you can throw over you. But one of the things that's the coolest, literally the coolest, is you can sit here, you can throw just a little bit of water on it, get it a little bit soaked, and then just shake it out. And it becomes almost like this freezing technology that occurs. And so you can see, you can put it around your neck and it'll cool you down, put it around your head, it'll cool you down. It's really quite impressive. So that's another one of those things that I'd recommend people get to cool themselves down quickly.
Yeah, guys, you see this on Amazon for less than $10. And I'm telling you right now from experience, this can actually probably help save somebody's life, because I've seen actually a few cases where I've seen Navy corpsmen take a Marine and throw him down and cut his clothes off of him, cut his boots off of him and everything, stripped naked, and throw buckets of ice water and these cooling type things on. Because if they're going through heat stroke, that means their core temperature is so hot that they could go into actual stroke and just comatosis and dead. Their core temperature needs to be cooled down immediately.
Right. And it's actually a very, very short period of time. We Kristen and I, my wife and I, went through our no heat stroke for little kids. One of the podcasts we had, one of the first podcasts we did, actually. And that was one of the things that she talked about. I think it's something like 3 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, something like that. If a person's core body temperature exceeds 103 degrees or something like that, they're basically approaching death. If it gets up to 107, they're, not that you want to be like all fatalistic or anything, but yeah, they're toast. It's got to get it down quick.
Yeah, so like heat cramps, they're cramping up a little bit. Just give them a little bit of sodium if you got it, and some water. Get them hydrated. Let them stretch out.
Yeah,
I'm not even worried about heat cramps.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't want to have them keep trying to complete the half marathon or marathon, because then they're going to possibly pull a muscle.
Yeah,
but just have them step aside for a little bit, stretch out, take in some water with some electrolytes. They'll eventually be fine pretty quickly. Not a major thing. Heat exhaustion, they can be cool, pale, clammy skin. They're sweating a lot and they're just like, they've got heat exhaustion, another heat casualty kind of thing. Not a huge issue. Heat stroke, get those guys cooled down as soon as possible. And even after you cool them down, go ahead and call for medical, because you never can tell. Just have medical on the way. But there's a whole bunch of things like this that preparedness and survival is not just about hoarding food or trying to compete in some 100-day naked and afraid contest.
That's right.
Anything else like that. You got to build up this repertoire of knowledge for all these little things: splinting a fracture, taking out stickers out of your hand, bee stings, snake bites, what kind of insects or snakes are out in different areas. Nish and I went camping recently, not too far from Galveston, and I didn't know this, but apparently in the coastal plains right off of the coast of Galveston, there are rattlesnakes. Not far off of Crystal Beach near Galveston, there's like a 15-foot alligator that's cruising the water for some reason. People don't understand it, but they've spotted him several times, and he eats big turtles. He hasn't threatened the people out there yet, but there's a big alligator out there.
Yeah.
But the survival manual has it, and it doesn't matter. It covers Australia, Asia, different parts of the world. It covers poisonous snakes, berries, and other things that you can eat. You'll see it in the table of contents there: water procurement, building shelters, firecraft, food procurement, survival use of plants, poisonous plants. Almost anything you can think of is in there. So it's not just about one little thing or the other. It's all in there. And as we go a little further down, if you don't even really have to download this. You can come to this page right here if you have a printer, or go to your library printer. And this is cool right here. Just print this little part. Just print this page and then cut this out, and then laminate this and put this in your wallet or someplace near your.
Now, so for those who are listening, this is just a little placard basically with the survival acronym on it. So let's read through this real quick. So
so go ahead, Matt.
S, size up the situation. U, use all your senses, and undue haste makes waste. R, remember where you are. V, vanquish fear and panic. I, improvise. V, value living. A, act like the natives. L, live by your wits, but for now, learn basic skills.
Basic skills, yes. And there it is, guys.
Survival.
And, like Matt said, if you can't see it, if you can eventually get to a place where you can find it. Most rangers and other folks like that I know, they have this cut out, laminated, and put in their wallet along with different other types of cards. There's a variety of different cards you can have in there for fieldcraft, first aid, 9-line medevac orders, because a lot of people forget how to do a 9-line. So a lot of personnel in the military or in law enforcement that are in those situations, they get themselves a little laminated card that shows them line by line how to go through a 9-line medevac request. civilians can do this if they can get the right phone numbers. If you're in a really bad situation, you call, you can say, write down through your 9-line. I can't spit them out right off the top of my head right now. That's why you have your 9-line medevac card on hand, and you can get a medevac helicopter out there if needed sometimes. All those little things like that. You have these little cards, you laminate them, you put them in your wallet, and you're almost good as gold. You're good to hook.
Yeah, good deal. Good deal.
So Matt, what kind of parting shots do you have for us tonight?
Well, number one, your passion, your excitement about this, it's contagious, and it makes me want to go read this manual. If now, I've read several manuals similar to this, but just from different perspective, maybe not necessarily military, but similarly. But I like this. As I was reading through it and leading up to this, one of the things that was most interesting I found is how simple things are put. You know, it's very simple, very quick, and it's just simple. It's kind of like that just tell it like it is, get the message across, and you don't need to say any more.
Yeah.
You know, it's simple as that. And so now some people may try to glean more from whatever's being said and whatever's being written in the book, but very good information. So I thank you for bringing it to the show.
Absolutely. And that's going to be my parting shot. I'm going to piggyback off of that and say that's part of the reason that I'm so excited about this. It was so fun because it's so fast and easy to take little digestible pieces of this and learn it very well. And when you get a chance, actually put it into practice in the field, and you're going to develop so much skill and confidence in doing this so fast. I'm not going to lie to you, like building a snare, getting yourself some snare line and building a snare and actually snaring rabbits or squirrels is extremely difficult, and you're not going to get it for a long time. So there's things like that are going to be extremely challenging. So don't let that dissuade you from continuing to learn what you can. There might be other things in there that are more challenging or almost impossible for you to learn right now. For example, mountaineering. You're not going to become an expert on all different types of rope, kern mantle and braided rope, and what's better for climbing and what's better for rappelling or something like this. And next thing you know, you're actually splinting somebody's leg and putting them in basically a stretcher and rappelling down a cliff with an injured person in a stretcher. That's an advanced skill that you're going to need specialized training in. But these little things like cutting the survival acronym card out, getting the survival manual hard copy, PDF, or the app, everything like this, it's so fast, fun, and easy. These little pieces of information are so fun to digest, and they're so practical. We used them every day in the Marines and the Army when we were out in the field, and so fun and easy to train. And you have all this cool gear. You got your 550 cord and your little signaling mirror. And now the next time you're trying to signal at night, and you're using some steel wool and a 9-volt battery, and you light the steel wool up and you swing it around, and you got people like a mile away that say, yeah, we can see it. You practice things like this. It's so fun. It's so great. And you're like, okay, now what else can we do at night? Oh, there's the Big Dipper and there's Cassiopeia.
Yeah.
And those 2 stars from the Big Dipper point this way, and those 2 stars from Cassiopeia, they point this way. And there's the North Star. So I know where I'm at now. I know where I'm at. I know where there's true north. So there's east, there's west, there's south.
Yeah.
Simple stuff, guys. I mean, so easy. Even a crayon eating Marine can do it. Take it from me.
Crayon eating Marine. Okay.
Here's the thing, guys. Here's my parting shot. These are hard skills. We're in Gen X. We're in our 40s and 50s and stuff. A lot of us have gotten to a place where we're in the office and doing soft skills more.
Yeah.
Those require a little bit more experience managerial wise and paperwork wise, or organizational management, stuff like that. These are hard skills. They're blue collar, etc. They're fast and easy to pick up and learn. And
they're freaking fun.
They're fun.
It's fun.
It's
cool
fun
stuff.
It's cool. It's fun. It's like I started a fire. I signaled somebody at night and they could see me a mile away with steel wool and a 9-volt battery. And then I started a survival campfire with it.
Yeah. That's pretty BA.
It's cool. I love it. And I just can't stop talking about it. So anyway, guys, that's part of my parting shot. And then we're also going to go over the guidebook for Marines in another episode. I'm going to be putting out some more fast, easy snippets on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. We thank you for your support. We thank you if you're listening. We thank you for being here, and be prepared. Matt, what do you say?
That's good for me.
GenXTalkin, guys, be prepared. U.S. Army Survival Manual.